Alright, I thought I'd give my thoughts on PSO2 New Genesis. I know a lot of people probably subscribed to me back when I was playing, old-ass PSO2 all those years ago. I've been around PSO2 since pretty much the beginning. I actually signed up for the beta. I used to play it on a laptop with integrated video, and it would run at like 15 FPS. One thing I should mention, there's a couple things I should mention before you pass judgment on this game. The first is that there is like really only one setting in here I've noticed that drastically affects their performance. Now, I have to give a disclaimer. While I'm saying that now, I did not have XSplit open. XSplit has been giving me some higher CPU usage in some games. I don't know why, their support was not able to help me, but I was just playing it without XSplit open, and everything was running quite fine, even in a pretty crowded fight like there was just now. What you want to turn off is this. You want to turn off global illumination, because for whatever reason, that tanks their performance. This is one of those games where you have like one or two things that actively affect their performance, and then everything else makes like almost no difference at all. Before I had that on, my CPU usage was maxed at like 100% all the time, and whenever I got into an actual battle, meaning when I got into an instanced area with a bunch of people, the performance would tank like crazy. It was very disorienting and awkward to play. The other thing I should mention is that apparently we're not going to be starting in this area or this city when the full release comes out next month. Also, every class is going to have 3 weapons, so if you've gotten into this and you're wondering, like, where are the other weapons, where are the other moves, why do I have to just use the same 3 moves the entire time, I would not recommend playing this beta that much. Just play to get the rewards, get a good feel of the game, and then move on. It's not worth grinding in, especially since you can't carry anything over. Overall, the combat is a mixed bag. For instance, if I play fighter, I think, I'm a fighter main. I've been a fighter main since, like, episode 2, so I have a lot of experience with this class. They feel really nice. I think the knuckles feel a lot better in this game. Animations look a lot better in this game overall. You can actually move your fingers now, which is pretty awesome. You could not do that before. So when you play as the fighter, you can actually dash cancel out of things pretty consistently and pretty quickly. There are certain things you can't. There are certain things you have to oddly commit to, which makes, like, almost no sense in a game like this. Like, this attack here. When he does that big DP, you can't cancel out of that at all. Meanwhile, you can sway out of the rapid punches. You can also dash cancel. But if I switch to the sword, it's like playing a different game. Now, they made Hunter quite a bit faster, too, but the problem is the cancel timings are really awkward. You can see how long it takes them to guard cancel. I don't know why it's like that. A lot of people are complaining about it, and I think that's totally warranted. You can't really have a fast-paced game and then have the character not feel responsive. Everybody is playing fighter right now because they actually feel really good in terms of cancel timings and stuff. It feels just about on par with old-school PSO2. Now when I switch back to this, the game feels instantly more responsive. Alright, let's see what these other people are doing. Movement feels quite good. You do have a sprint now, having to rely on movement PAs is a thing of the past. I think that's something that always held PSO2 back. You know, one of your PA slots always had to go towards movement PAs because you ran so slow in that game. Now in this game you actually can just sprint places. You have this glide as well, but the problem with the glide is painfully slow. So if you try to use it to get around places, I find it to be generally useless. The sprint feels quite good. The sprint could even do with being a bit faster. The open world is relatively barren. They do give you some ways to engage with it, like heals are picked up on the field now, so if I use a heal right now to get back to full health, and I pick this up, I go back to 10, so that's one way that they kind of encourage interacting with the open world, but I've been playing this for about 6 hours, and I can say that a large chunk of my time has just been running around and nothing. The game definitely has the same trappings as any other open world game, where a lot of your time is going to be spent, like, not actually playing, just running around, as you can see here. Enemy spawns in general feel very sparse. So if you're going into this expecting it to be like PSO2, where, you know, there's just like giant masses of enemies everywhere and you're a fast-paced action and things, and this game's going to be a bit disappointing. You know, towards the end of PSO2's lifespan, they kind of de-emphasized free fields anyway, and free fields very much were just running around waiting for enemies to spawn. I don't want to sound like that criticism of this is not correct. That's how it always was in the original game too, but the difference in the original game is that the areas were a lot smaller, so you could get around a lot faster. Here, sometimes it feels like by the time you get to a fight, it's already over. See my frame rate in the upper left-hand corner, it's still tanking quite a bit, but the optimization in this game leaves a lot to be desired. I think one thing the development team doesn't understand is when you make a free-to-play game, you need good optimization. That's one of the things that people like about free-to-play games, is you don't need a beast computer to play them. Especially right now, it's a nightmare and a half to get a decent PC, or even just upgrade like your GPU and stuff. So you want the game to run consistently on at least average hardware. You know, if you can get it to run on a toaster, that's great, but it needs to be something that the average person can play who might not be able to afford or have access to, you know, a pretty good PC. I've had to turn a lot of stuff off. I definitely fought with the performance for a while, and only just now I got it to a good spot where it's not completely annihilating my CPU, and I can actually play the game in a big fight and actually feel like, you know, my inputs aren't getting eaten and I'm not feeling sick because I can't, like, fight anything accurately. Why this class is so responsive and all the other ones aren't, I don't understand the reasoning behind it. But even this class has some weird jank. Certain moves you can't cancel out of. It feels a little bit unfair when they have, like, you get a rare big group of spawns like this and you get stuck in a move. I've seen a lot of people saying that they want you to commit to moves, but it's like, well, when you can get hit from behind, you can get hit from behind and then takes off like half your health, and it's of no fault of your own because a big move and your character won't cancel. I don't really think that's fair or engaging in the slightest. It would be better to control overall. They've gotten a lot of complaints about it. I don't know what their design philosophy is, but I'm pretty sure they're going to have to change it because it's like the #1 complaint about this game. The main complaints about this game would be, for most people, is the general consensus of the open world, the lack of cancel windows, and the optimization. So let's see if we can get into another fight here. think the open world looks quite nice, but I wish you could get around it faster. They do have fast travel points. Ironically, playing this makes me miss Dynasty Warriors 9, because that game, you know, you had like a horse that went at like Mach speed. You could get around really quickly. Here in this game, it feels like the dash is not enough. The world is way too big. You spend a lot of time running around, and you get like a few pieces of action, and then you're back to running around and nothing. There's still not enough things to really collect in the world. There are some materials that you need for upgrades and stuff, but most of it is just your health and revive pickups. I think it's nice that they have those. I mean, that's one of the easiest ways to make an open world and not feel completely pointless, is to have those around, so that if you're exploring and you're getting between fights, you can find them and you don't have to go back to town. I think that aspect of it is really nice. It's just everything else, it feels like they could squish the world of this down by a ton, and it wouldn't really make that much difference. So let's go back to town and look at some of the progression mechanics. Okay, so if you go to the class counter, you're gonna notice there's like way less stuff. Leveling up actually does not give you skill points anymore. You only get SP from doing cocoons. Cocoons are kind of like Breath of the Wild shrines. They're like little handcrafted challenges that you do in an instance. And I guess you can do them with other people. I haven't really bothered to yet. I think this aspect is really dumb. Obviously, they're doing it right now to gate the fact that there's so few passives and actives compared to original PSO2, but it definitely de-emphasizes leveling up in general. Leveling up doesn't feel exciting. You know, in PSO2, if you did like a long grind and you got 5 levels, that could be like a massive, you know, upgrade to how you play the game. You could unlock a lot of new mechanics or damage or both. Here, it's like you do the cocoons and you get 1 skill point, and then leveling up feels relatively pointless. There are some level requirement stuff, but it doesn't really feel worth it. I think this is probably one of the things I dislike about the game the most. The fact that they have barely anything in here in the first place, and then you have to do the cocoons. Now, one thing that is nice about this system is when you do the cocoons, the SP you unlock from that, they are universal for all classes. That means that you can... It means that you can play a class from level 1, like Hunter, like I subbed Hunter, just like old school PSO2, and I instantly had these 2 skill points, whereas in the old PSO2 you would have to level them. Now that is kind of nice. It indirectly makes it so that you don't have to play a class you don't like, but it does feel pretty limiting. I feel like you should have more. There's not really much in here, as you can see.
Come by anytime, okay?
In terms of how upgrading works, adding augments, you no longer need like a PhD to add augments. Like say, you get a lot of these just on the field. So this gives melee potency. So if I pick this, I pick all 7, that will increase the chance. And if I pick HP, I have 9 of those. So when I go in here, I'll have a lot of extra room that I can take. Let's take those. Obviously this is beta, so you don't have any kind of cache items or anything to make this easier. Let's go ahead and try this.
Oh no.
The one failed, but the other one did because I had more of those souls. It is so much easier to upgrade items in this game. It's actually kind of ridiculous. I think they realized that people didn't really like needing like a PhD and a degree to like just to upgrade a weapon. It's much easier in this. It's much more painless. I don't know how upslotting works. You can't upslot right now. I'm sure that's something that will be added in the near future.
Against dolls appearing in the Alio region. We request the participation of all ARC
Okay, let's see if I can run this. So another thing people dislike about this game is how much health the enemies have. Oh, I actually can't do this. I don't have enough battle power. That's another thing. They did add a total combat power mechanic. If you played games like Closers, KOF All-Star, Critica, those are 3 games I can think of that have that. You will need that for certain events, which I think is kind of okay. I guess they're trying to prevent leeching, but the problem is the enemies have so much health that people are going to want to get in on the action, and then you just end up doing no damage. I'm sure it's something that will be fleshed out later on, but right now it definitely does feel half-baked. Overall, I don't hate the game. I just feel that cancel timing should be faster across the board. It doesn't make sense to have like massive swarms of enemies and then people spouting BS like, oh, you know, you're supposed to be deliberate and commit to actions. Well, the enemies don't have to commit to actions. You can get hit by off-screen projectiles and attacks like all the time in this game. You're completely surrounded. You should be able to cancel at any given point in an animation. If that's the kind of playstyle you like, I'd recommend just playing Fighter, but right now there's not really that much content. You can play through pretty much the majority of it in about, I'd say, 4 to 6 hours. I definitely was held back quite a bit by the fact that I had to fight with the optimization. Like I said, there's really only one setting in there that really fixed things, which was global illumination. But definitely going to have to look at the optimization. You can tell that this game is it's designed with Westerners in mind. They're trying to appeal to a larger audience, but there's certain things that you need to do regardless. You need to make the character feel responsive. That's the heart of PSO2 in general. If they want this game to last another 8 years like the original PSO2 did, which is still going to be going on for a while, I think they need to tighten up the combat. They need to make it feel like getting hit is not your fault. That's definitely one thing that's really weird in this game, since you have so many characters on the screen at once and you can instance with up to 32 people. It can be very hard to tell where your aggro is, whereas in the old PSO2, it was relatively obvious. If you were playing like a melee class, you were going to be getting most of the aggro. Here it's like, you know, the enemy or the boss can just go hit somebody else on the other side of the map like at any time. I am cautiously optimistic about this game. This beta didn't really instill me with a lot of confidence, but I feel like it's kind of hard to judge because we're dealing with like a third of the movesets, and they're supposed to be more polished already. They're going to be taking a lot of feedback. I've seen a number of people willingly and warrantly, that's not a word, but give a warranted call out to the fact that the open world is very barren. It doesn't really feel like it's necessary. It feels like they could shrink it a lot and increase enemy spawns across the board, and maybe it would get to the speed and the intensity of the original PSO2. That and the fact that you can't cancel out of certain things feels very unfair. It feels very stiff, and it doesn't really scream PSO2 to me. One of the things about PSO2, whether you like that game or not, it is a very antiquated game. It's been around for a long time. You know, a lot of people don't like all the menus and how hard it is to upgrade items and stuff. Pretty much all of those things have been fixed in this game. I think that they have done a great job with quality of life and simplifying mechanics so that you don't need to have a guide open and a fixed simulator, and you have to ask people if you're doing things right and stuff. It's a lot easier to jump in and play this game, but I think overall the combat feels a lot worse. It feels a lot less responsive, and that's going to be a problem moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they de-emphasize the open world later on. They're probably going to buckle down and add, like, you know, cocoons that respawn daily or something, where you could just have instance fights and play with your friends and stuff. I think that would be the best way to fix it. Maybe have, like, some just pure instance areas on the open world or something, like actually being able to go and get a quest and stuff. I think that would fix things quite a bit. Right now, you definitely run around and wait for something to happen. That's always been at the heart of PSO2 in general, the fact that, you know, you run around and wait for something to happen, but you were dealing with maps that were exponentially smaller than this. Like, if they had, like, instanced maps in this, and they still had the dash and the glide, I think this game would be pretty awesome. But right now, the open world just feels like, it feels like a half-baked gimmick. It feels like it doesn't really add a lot to the game. It actually greatly lowers the pacing as well, and that's just disappointing as a whole. Anyway, this is going to be the last content I do for this. I don't see a point in really going much farther. They're going to be taking a lot of feedback from this, I'm sure, and the full release should hopefully be better. However, it supposedly comes out in like less than a month, so I don't know how much they can do. I don't know how much they're going to be implementing from this beta. I assume within the next few days they're going to be giving us the feedback and telling us what they're going to change, and I'll definitely do a video about that as well. Thanks for watching.